It's like the writer of Hebrews said in chapter 11, verse 6, but without faith it's impossible to please God. Those that come to God must not only believe in his existence, but that he is a rewarder of those diligently seeking him. But the key takeaway of that is without faith, you can't please God. I mean, look at the children of Israel when they were coming out of the wilderness into the promised land and they sent out 12 spies. Joshua and Caleb were the only ones that came back with a good report. The other 10 spies came back with an evil report saying, "We're not able. We're like grasshoppers in their eyes." And no doubt, in their eyes, were grasshoppers to them. But Joshua and Caleb said, "We should go up now, for we are well able." We need to understand that this is concerning our salvation and entering into the promised land. You're not going to enter into the promised land without faith. And I say that because of all these people that claim to be saved, calling themselves sinners. When Peter said, "If the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear?" Or as Paul wrote in Romans 6, verse 15, he says, "Know ye not to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey? His servants you are to whom you obey, whether of sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness." As he said in 1 Corinthians 15:56, "The sting of death is sin, but the strength of sin is the law." That's why he's describing us dying to the law by the body of Christ in chapter 7. Talking about our liberty from sin in chapter 6 by death. Verse 7, "He who is dead is freed from sin." Well, right before that, he said, "How shall we who are dead to sin live any longer therein?" Because as many as were baptized into Jesus Christ were baptized into his death. We're buried with him then in baptism. But all these people were running around saying, "Well, you don't have to be water baptized. The thief on the cross wasn't water baptized." I said, "Well, you know what? You can believe that lie all the way to hell." Because on the eve of Jesus' crucifixion, after he ate the Passover with them, in John chapter 13, and he laid his garments to the side and girded himself with a towel to wash the disciples' feet. And Peter said, "You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus said, "Peter, if I don't, you have no part with me." We need to understand the truth. You're not going to enter in through their unbelief.